This is Brian Smith with Vantis Commercial Real Estate. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the differences between residential leases and commercial leases. So with a residential lease, it's very common to see a length of lease between 6 months and a year. On the commercial side, there are usually much longer lease terms, ranging anywhere from 3 to 10 years. Now, 10 years is a very long lease, and that is favorable for the landlord because they know that their tenant is going to be there for the full 10 years or pay the rent for the full 10 years. It also can be favorable for a tenant because they have the security of knowing they have the space for that full 10-year time frame, and usually they have the lease rate locked in for that full 10 years as well. Another difference between commercial and residential when it comes to leases is the structure of the lease, and this is very important to understand. On a residential lease, the vast majority of the time it's structured as a gross plus utilities type of lease. And what that means is, let's say that you're leasing a 2-bedroom apartment for $950 a month. The full amount that you pay to the landlord is the $950 a month, and then you pay your own utility bills over and above that amount. Now on the commercial side, you can see leases structured anywhere from a gross lease to a triple net lease. A gross lease is where utilities are included. So you pay your monthly amount to the landlord, and that's your full expense. Utilities included in that rent payment. You can also have a gross plus utilities type of lease, the same as what we talked about with the residential type of lease on an apartment or a home. The complicated type of lease, or where people can really run into some pitfalls, is the triple net lease. And so the way a triple net lease is structured, you have the base rent that you pay to the landlord, which in this example, let's say you're going to lease 1,000 square feet of office space for $12 a square foot. Okay, that's $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month. So you pay the landlord $1,000 a month in rent, but then you also owe the landlord triple net expenses over and above that amount. The triple net expenses include property taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance. That's what the triple net means, or that's where it comes from. Net of property taxes, net of insurance, and net of common area maintenance. Property taxes are controlled by the county. It's not something the landlord has control over, but it can fluctuate from one year to the next. And so your triple net expenses could go up just because property taxes are increased. The same thing goes for insurance, not totally under the landlord's control. You know, the landlord can shop around for different insurance providers that could be more affordable. But from one year to the next, the insurance provider could increase their rates, which could also increase your triple net expenses. And then common area maintenance. And a lot of different things go into common area maintenance, whether it be cleaning common areas in the building that you're leasing, common bathrooms, common entrances, vestibules, those types of things. Outside common areas also come into play. Lawn care, landscaping, and snow removal. So here in South Dakota, if we get a bad winter and we get a lot of snow, your triple net expenses can go up because your parking lot had to be cleared many more times than what was expected. With a triple net lease, usually a landlord will give you an estimate of what they assume the triple net expenses will be. You pay that estimated amount throughout the year on top of the agreed upon rent price, and then at the end of the year, the actual expenses are added up and you have what's called a true up. So you compare what you paid to what the actual expenses were. And if you didn't pay enough, then you have to write out a check for the additional amount. If you overpaid, the landlord usually gives you credit on your next rent payment in January. It's extremely important to understand this because a lot of people have a budget on the amount that they're willing to spend on a leased space, and if they only take the numbers that they are given based on the base rent rate and aren't factoring in the triple net expenses over and above it, they can end up committing to a lease that is far too expensive for the business to be able to operate out of profit. So it's very important to understand those factors and work with a professional when you're negotiating a lease, because there are many, many different pitfalls when you aren't experienced. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is lease renewals. Most of the time on a residential lease, after your 6-month or 1-year term runs out, then you automatically renew on a month-to-month basis. You can go back in, renegotiate another term, 6 months or a year. Many times they'll give you some type of a break on the rent to motivate you to commit to that time frame. Now, on the commercial side, many times the lease renewal options are already factored into an existing lease. So let's say you had a lease that has a 3-year initial term. Many times you'll have 1 or 2 3-year renewal options built into that lease as well. Now, those are tenant options. The landlord can't force you to renew. It's your option as a tenant to decide, do I want to renew this lease for another 3 years at the agreed upon price? And many times there is an increase in rent in the renewal options. And that is another item that you can negotiate on the front end, so you know long-term what your expenses will be if you stay in that location, if you do a good job of negotiating your lease terms on the front end. Just another great reason to work with a professional and help guide you through the process of negotiating a lease that fits your needs now and in the long run. Brian Smith, Bantus Commercial Real Estate.